Ujjayi, and welcome to the Gated Gates podcast. My name is Tutibsaa Namir. Finally back with you guys. I know you guys missed me. I did not miss you.
We missed you.
I'm kidding. I missed all of you. I'm here with my co-host.
Kajizriman Saikapta.
And
Tahudi Hikwapti.
You sounded like you forgot your name for a second.
For a second there.
But are you okay?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about him.
No, you.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm just jet lagged.
Yeah.
Just got back. For those of you that were wondering where I was back in Meritah. So
we were all wondering where you were.
Not you guys. You guys knew where I was, but I don't know if you guys told them or not. It was a pretty big time difference.
We gave them your geolocation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Who gave it out, Nico? Okay, so
Temple of Anu was looking for you, but
they were like, "Where is he?"
They don't know their anus from
Nico
there.
was like, "Here's his address." So, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge all the forces in the non-material, all the ancestors, all the deities, all the genies, all of the forces in the non-material that are standing behind this great work, and particularly the great ancestor that rose to the status of the highest order that one can achieve within the Kemetic temples in terms of the priesthood, in terms of the classifications, and that classification is the level of prophet, and that is Nebnabla Musa Moradinabig for bringing the Imtam schools to the contemporary world or to the modern world, opening it up to the modern world once again during these trying times. And with that being said,
before we get started, I did have a couple of questions for you, Tutibsaa.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you.
Gotcha, finally.
I wanted to.
Can't refuse. You're on air.
No, I wanted to ask you about Meritah. I wanted to ask you about your experiences in Meritah and why. I feel like we've talked about Meritah. We touched on it, but it's good to get like a firsthand account from someone. Mm-hmm. Like, why is it important for you to go back to Meritah? Why do you make that pilgrimage every year?
I mean, that's a big question, so I'll do my best to kind of answer it without like taking up the whole amount of time on the show.
For sure.
I would say because there's a lot of people out there that think that they're spiritual, right? And there's even people in this that claim to be spiritual, but they're really not. Because what it takes to be spiritual is you have to really kind of put your money where your mouth is, in that you have to understand that everything within the invisible world respects structure and respects hierarchy. Now, the reason why we go back every year, and speaking for myself, why I go back every year is because as a human being, it's very difficult to move through the existence. Like, that's just being honest. Like, it's very difficult because if you're truly being honest about the way you're kind of prepared in the West, to live and to move through life, you're prepared in a way where you're not prepared to deal with anything involving things outside of the five senses. So you have to rely on things that can see you, but you cannot see them. Now, it may seem that I'm dancing around the answer, but in actuality, I'm answering the question, but I'm answering it in a way that allows you to understand that we go back every year because we understand that if we claim to be people that understand the mysteries of the invisible, or claim to be initiated into temples that understand the mysteries of accessing the invisible, then you have to go back to these temples that have preserved it and have kept it alive so that you can actually speak to ancestors, so that you can actually get guidance on how to move, on how to improve, on the things you can't see that they can see, on the things you need to work on. Because people try to make spirituality about like, well, you know, I'm going to like spiritually bypass. For those of you that know what that is, like, I know that that's like a pretty big buzzword, is like spiritually bypassing.
I've never heard of that.
That's like when you could be like a serial killer and then you're like, but I'm forgiven.
So it was religion.
No, it's like when you're absolved, you've absolved yourself of doing any real work, of rectifying a situation, technically within the existence, and then you're just kind of like, I've reached this place. Like, you know that
sounds like
What?
religion.
yeah. I mean, that's a big component of
or
religion.
New Age. Or,
That's a big.
I mean, New Age is still religion.
Yeah, it's
New
still
Age
religion.
spirituality is just
Yeah.
religion, bro.
But that even
just
sounds a little bit worse, because it's like, at least religion tells you that there's like a place where you can be punished
yeah.
or something like that. But this just sounds
but no,
like
but
there is
people-
no, there's
but
like
that's
no
what,
s-
that's
nothing.
what like New Age spiritual people do, is they do that like spiritual
Mm-hmm.
bypassing thing. But that's what I'm talking about.
So I could just
Mm-hmm.
murder you right now and say I'm spiritually bypassing and I'm
Well, you don't say
enlightened
it that
and I'm a
way.
Buddha.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, well, now I've converted to Buddhism, and in Buddhism, I've reached the level of, I don't know a lot about the levels of Buddhism, but like you could say like
Well, Buddha's the highest level.
all right, whatever. You say I'm Buddha, and then you're like, well, now that I've reached Buddha, the level of Buddha, it's forgiven that I murdered Tutibsaa.
But-
Does that make sense?
But just by
Just by proclaiming it. Like, you don't have to actually work for it or do any of the real stuff. Like, you just say, like, I've reached that. It's like,
and how
Like,
do we verify
okay,
that?
like for instance, we know someone that's a mechanic, right? I don't like to people's business out there, but we know someone that's a mechanic, right?
Uh-huh.
But then let's say you know someone that's not a mechanic, and then they're like, I just changed my brakes. And then you're like, you did what? And then they're like, yeah, I changed my brakes. And then do you feel safe or confident getting in that person's car?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because they didn't go through the proper training or the proper steps to know
You're like,
to
are you a
differentiate
mechanic?
between being a real mechanic
Exactly.
and just being somebody who's just putting shit together.
So the thing is that when you're dealing with like people that claim to be spiritual, what makes us different, and the reason why a lot of people feel like we're arrogant, is because we know what
I
we're
was just
standing
thinking
on.
about that. Yeah.
And we know what we're standing on. We know what we go back and report to, and we know that it's a process of working on yourself. Like, I don't fool myself on a daily basis thinking that I'm a finished product. I understand that I'm here with a destiny to achieve something. And as a spirit, the earth identifies me by even giving me a name to say, like, these are the energies that this spirit has come to achieve with their destiny. So that means, like, I'm here to do something. And being that I'm here to do something, I need guidance from the spirits that can help me remember or get back on track with accomplishing that mission. Because being in life, or when you're born into life, when you exit or when you kind of walk through that gateway of the channel of death, what happens is you don't remember what you signed up for before you were born. So it's sort of like the minute you parachute out of that plane, and that plane could be death, and the minute that your boots hit the ground and you're in life, you have no memory or recollection of that which you signed up for or you were briefed in terms of what the mission was. So the reason why I go back every year is to make sure that I'm still aligned with that mission, and I'm doing things to align myself or to prepare myself or to have the necessary tools to be aligned with that mission.
You know, the arrogance is kind of an interesting topic in itself, because we've had some guests on the show, and from time to time we find that even sort of questioning someone's sense of spirituality is somehow like an arrogant thing. But we don't talk about spirituality here like it's just like some crystal rocks, or like it's just some tarot, or like it's just some BS. Like, I thought that I was kind of spiritual before this, and now coming into this I realized like how much of like a climb it actually is to actually be spiritual. And what Tutibsaa is talking about isn't a joke. Like, when he says he's spiritual, he's talking about a very rigid and technical process that he undergoes from the moment he wakes up until the moment he goes to sleep. That's not to say that he's like a monk either. He's also
it's not just me, it's all of us.
I'm just saying, but like, sure, like we go through that from waking up to going to sleep, and obviously we're like real people too. Like, we have real lives. We're not just like monking it up all day or whatever. But it's like and that's why when it comes to religion, when it comes to other spiritual practices, we question that, and we question each other as well. We question each other's.
We challenge each other.
Yeah, so we don't find
we hold each other accountable.
Yeah, we don't find challenges to be that like.
There's something really phenomenal that I learned on this trip. I'm not gonna say from who. You guys can fill in the blanks. You guys will know who I learned it from. And the person was saying that the reason why our ancestors moved the initiation from the mystery schools to the bush is because once you move it from the mystery schools to the bush, the component that becomes now another element that holds the spirit or the individual or the seeker, that which is embarking on that path accountable, is nature. Nature becomes the witness, and nature becomes the added component to hold that person accountable.
And the judge.
And the judge.
And the jury.
And the jury.
This topic is interesting because going back to that arrogance, sure, maybe I can understand why some people would view it that way or see it that way, but I think the arrogance is really in thinking that you can be spiritual but then not really give some kind of honor or reverence to what it is that spirituality is, or where the concept of being spiritual even comes from. Because a lot of these practices that people might claim to have or people might do, it comes from somewhere. It has a origin. There's a place it comes from. So it's almost like a child that's kind of like lost without its father. If you're trying to do what your father does but don't really know what your father does in the same breath, and then if other like people are questioning you about that, then it's almost like you're feeling attacked. But are you really feeling attacked because what you're standing on is true per se, or are you feeling attacked because maybe there's some truth to what's being said? So I think the arrogance is really on the people who take it to heart.
Can't be mad at what's true.
I mean, it's sort of like what you described is, I think, kind of hits it on the nail. I mean, hits the nail on the head, because what it is it's sort of like if you grow up not knowing your father, and then you live your life, and then you're like, well, I've only heard stories about my dad, or I've read about my dad in a book that was made about my dad, or I found my dad's diary, and that's how I know my dad. But then you completely dismiss the facet that you have to consider, or the fact that you have to consider, which is the person that's telling you the story, do they have a bias toward your father? Who are they to your father? And how did they know your father? How much time did they spend with your father? Now, if you come across someone that says, I grew up with your father, and I was with your father from when he was born until when he died, and I saw everything that person did. I saw everything your dad did from start to finish. How does your formulation of what you think your father is hold up against that person that saw everything your father did and was there for every waking moment of what your father did? How do those two hold up? And that's what makes it different. We might be arrogant to you because we are confident in what we know that we're standing on, but we're confident in knowing what we're standing on because we know that what's standing behind it is the thing in which you cannot lie to and cannot escape, which is nature, because it's around us and we exist within it, whether or not we think we exist within it or not. We exist within it. So there's no way around it.
It's kind of like a rap battle. If someone says they're about that life, it's like you're
That's interesting analogy.
you're gonna test them. You're gonna be like, okay, like let's do it right now, here, right now.
It's
and the
true.
thing is, we do this like spiritual fencing with each other.
It's
I
true.
would say more is like sets versus sets, right? It's like if somebody says they're Paru, then you got to know, okay,
I heard
like
something
what's
else.
you know, what's your paperwork?
Yeah.
Okay, like
yeah.
what's your history? Like, okay,
Yeah.
what's set? Like, what are you claiming? Like,
Where you from?
like
nigga?
where you from? Like, where does that
Sets,
come from?
like a set,
So it's like a set kind
like
of
a
thing.
blood,
Yes,
Yes, you do too.
Yes.
like crit.
Yes.
I don't know why I brought that.
I don't know how
example.
I know we got on this topic because because
Don't
do that.
don't do that.
Don't do that. Like, nah. Like, because we don't know who's actually watching this and like gonna be like, nah, I'm coming for you.
Come for me. I'm from Brooklyn.
Okay.
Please don't
Just
do that.
Stop. Don't challenge the
Please
people out
don't do
there. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate the question. It I don't know how it ties into to today's topic, but
Well, you know, you just came
It
from there. I
does.
think it's just
It does though.
yeah.
Oh,
When you think
actually,
about it, because
it does.
because if we could just jump right into it, right? You know, this whole Israel and Gaza thing,
That's the topic for today.
I think it's very much set tripping, because the thing is, historically, right? The people who we are calling Palestinians now today, did they always live there or not?
Well,
Well, Israel was, I mean, that area was colonized by many, many different people.
Right.
So,
But that's the thing, like a place can be colonized, right?
Yeah.
And once you colonize a place, one of two things can happen. You can either exterminate a large mass group of people and then bring a wave of people to replace the people, or you can just take the people and then convert them to your principalities and your ways, and then you can have them in a sense become like a copy of you, and then now it's an extension of you. So either way, even if you mass kill a bunch of people, you're still gonna do that. You're still gonna, the people that's remaining, they're gonna have to now kind of submit to like your lifestyle. So the question becomes, out of all of these thousands of years of colonization of that specific region, the people we're calling Palestinians, are they or are they not the people that have always been there? Are they not indigenous people from that land? Because the question becomes, the people who are now coming in and occupying that land and now killing these people who are calling themselves Jews, wouldn't that make those Palestinians possibly also the same bloodline or the same descendants from the so-called Jews?
well, I mean, I think if we're gonna use and we're gonna continue on the claiming a set analogy, then I think it's important to kind of think about it in a way where it's sort of like you got Bloods from Compton fighting the Bloods from Long Beach. So it's sort of like you're both claiming the same set, but you're just
Well, not the same set. They're
from different.
the
It's
same,
the same set.
You're
though.
the
both-
same organization,
both-
It's the
but
same
different
set.
sets.
It's Bloods.
Yeah.
You're still Bloods.
But
yeah,
you're both
but
black.
it's different
What
sets and bloods.
You're both black.
What? What? All right,
Okay,
this guy.
we're gonna
It's just-
lose a lot of people if we don't speak like clearly and like just like kind of shoot it straight.
So, all right. So shooting it straight, right? Going back to the Bloods and Crips example. Just the Bloods, right? So like, if
No, just
if
shoot
there's
it straight.
Bloods,
Don't even
right?
don't even
All
use the
right.
analogy. Just shoot it straight.
All right. So the thing is this: the people who are claiming to be Jews in that land now, are they actually real Jews, or were they just converts to Judaism and claiming to be from that land? Are we dealing with Europeans claiming to be a thing, or are we dealing with people who left and then actually maybe just made it with Europeans, came back looking European and going back there, and then now going against their brotherhood? Like, what are we really dealing with?
Well, in Israel, in that area, I mean, you have the Dome of the Rock.
Mm-hmm.
You have the place where Muslims would say that Muhammad was at one point, where Muhammad stood. And then you, on the other hand, you have the Mount Sinai temples, and you have, all the temples that the Jews claim.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you even have, I mean, they even say in the Bible that, even Jesus was there. So it's like this very contentious area. And it's funny because this guy just asked, Warrior Zul Bukhari asked, how does this war between Israel and Palestine have any concern to Africans?
Because if a world war breaks out, and it seems like it's breaking out because it's becoming abundantly more and more clear that Israel and the war between Israel and Palestine, or the war, I don't even know if Palestine exists anymore. I don't even think they.
No, they took it off the map.
Yeah, they took it off the map. It's just
Like years
Israel
ago.
and Israel slaughtering people in Gaza and slaughtering the people that formerly were known as the Palestinians. It's becoming abundantly more and more clear that it's setting the stage for another world war. Because when you really look at what's happening there, and you look at the way that America is putting its resources more and more behind the atrocities that Israel is committing, in terms of from a humane perspective, from the perspective of humanity, you have to understand that it's setting the stage for other superpowers to say, well, okay, we're going to stand behind this group of people. And for those that don't know the way history has played out in the past, that's the way World War I started.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way World War II started.
Franz Ferdinand, right?
It was the Archduke Ferdinand of, I don't remember what country, but once he got assassinated, it was like, okay, well, this country is backing that country, which has just joined the war. And then there's another country that's backing the other country that's backing the other country that joins the war. But then it's like, this team has that country backing them, and that country, and that country, and that country. And then it pops off.
So it's a set war again.
Yeah, it's a set.
Because again, it's like it's a United Nations apparently, right? But yet there's war.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening, and I think it's happening in real time. And it's becoming more and more clear and abundant that, like, this is the thing is, like, the Israeli stance has become so politicized to such a degree that there's no way you can really kind of get the people in Israel and the people in the Israeli government and the people that have that stance of Israel having the right to defend itself, or all of the other things that they come up with to justify Israel's stances. It's becoming scarier and scarier because Israel is doing more and more disgusting things. They're bombing refugee camps. They're bombing hospitals, and then you just see the excuses keep mounting and mounting and mounting, that you have to sit there and ask yourself, like, what's really the end game? Like, when are we gonna draw the line to say enough is enough? Because it's even interesting seeing some of the within the internal politics of the United States, the way that a lot of people are kind of towing the line between who they're trying to align themselves with, because globally there's a global outcry for stopping what Israel is doing. And then when you look within certain circles within Israel and the US, there are certain people that aren't with that outcry and are against that outcry. So then you have to sit there and ask yourself, like, what's going to happen?
But, you know, I think it's interesting, though, because at one point we were all connected. We were all together as a humanity. And I think that's something that we forget. And what you really have within Israel, with the Israelis and the Palestinians, is you really have like one bloodline of people that just rep two different sets. They just have two different ideologies at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, like, they're all human beings. Like, they all want to take their kids to school, and they all want to, you know, raise families, and
They want to grow up.
and right. So they all just human beings, but they have these two separate ideologies. So when it really goes back to it, and why we really care at all, is because we're attempting, and maybe this is very idealistic of us, and people often claim that we're very idealistic in our approach, but what we're attempting to do, you know, as you can see, you know, 3 different shades at this table, is like trying to get to a place where, you know, we can go back to being, like, I guess you could say, one as humanity, without all of like the religious bullshit and all the other ideologies that separate all of us and that are causing all of the issues that we're seeing globally.
I mean, it's interesting to me because it's crazy. I was driving, and I picked this guy up from the airport. This was like 2 days ago, I think, and I was driving, and then he went to some place called like Forest Hill in New Jersey or whatever, and as I entered the neighborhood,
You were like, what were you driving? How can you give the context of?
no, I picked the guy up. I was driving Lyft.
Okay, yeah. Just because you said I just picked up a guy. Like,
No, I was driving Lyft. So I picked him up from the airport and got him and his luggage and all that. So I'm driving him to his house. So we get to the neighborhood he lives in, and as I enter the neighborhood, I noticed that every house had these big billboards like on their lawns, and it said, "We stand with Israel." Every house.
Forest Hills.
Yeah.
It's a Jewish area.
in New Jersey.
Obviously,
Yeah.
obviously it had to be, and it was just straight. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. Then one person even had a sign that said, "I dare you to say anything about Palestine." And I'm just there, because the guy is Indian, and I'm like, "Why do you live here? Like, this doesn't seem like your kind of neighborhood." And he's just like, whatever. So I drop him home, whatever, and then
Did you ask him? You're like, "Do you stand with Israel?"
Nah, he just, I didn't even bother asking, because it was just like, I don't really care to know this guy's personal.
That's great.
What, a great Indian accent?
Yeah, it was amazing.
You had to do the thing.
Nigga money, hi.
Okay, keep going.
No, but it made me really think about it, and I was thinking about it like, this is kind of interesting because this can happen here in America, right? And you have to think, okay, Israel gets funding from the United States, like a large amount of funding.
Yeah.
But
Bro,
I recently
it's
found out
crazy
they
the
even
amount
get
of money.
yeah, like billions.
Yeah.
Weapons.
Trillions, bro. Not
Trillions.
billions, it's trillions.
But I recently found out that also England funds them as well.
Sure.
And I'm like, what is really going on here? Because in doing a little bit of research in towards like what Israel is, at least modern day Israel, right? I come to find that there's a guy, Herzl, who is an atheist, who is the father of Zionism, which blew my mind because it's like, okay, so now you have Jews, but then you have Zionists, right? So it's two different
There's
things.
a difference.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
But Zionism is like, they believe that the Israelis have a right to own or occupy the
To that
land,
land.
in Palestine.
Yes.
That's what Zionists believe. And then you have Jews, like traditional Orthodox Jews, who were like, no, that's not right.
Not all of them. There are some Orthodox Jews that do believe in are Zionists, but there is a sect of Orthodoxy that they don't believe that the Messiah has come yet, and therefore that land is not the state of Israel or Israel.
Right, because the way it was explained in a video I saw was that God punished them, so they're basically on timeout. So for a child to go and then defy their father and then go back to where their father said don't go is like a defiance of God. So right now, technically, from a religious perspective, they're not even supposed to be there. So the question is, so where are they getting this idea of your authority to come there?
If you take the Torah like literally,
right?
And you can see the types of people that take the Torah very literally. You know, they look more like Amish.
Right.
In a way, you know, they look more like pastoral.
But the point I'm trying to make is they claim to have a right to be there, right? That's why they're saying they have the right to kill all these people and murder all these people and all this stuff. But like, what is actually giving you this right? Is it a spiritual thing or is it all just political? Because from right now, it seems like there's like a political agenda behind this, even the foundation of it. Because how can an atheist who was working with Christians trying to make sure Jesus came back to create Zionism, then now help the British government to now help these people occupy a land?
So
what's really going on?
Like, let's hit it and let's go straight. So this is the thing, is you have to understand that the system in which we currently all are participating in and we all are a part of, which is the modern civilization, the way that it functions is that it has three pillars that it really stands on, right? It's religion, science, and politics, okay? And all three of those pillars work together and outwardly project themselves or outwardly present themselves as not working together and in opposition of each other. So for the dreamer, you have like the person that's not logical, that's just willing to shut off their brain and then walk on faith and then just be like, I'm going to jump out of the plane and I'm going to be fine.
Or bomb myself.
Jesus is going to save me.
And Allah is going to give me 40 virgins.
There's religion for you, okay? Now, for the person that's like, all right, so when I jump out of this plane, what's next? There's science for you, okay? Now, for the person that's like, what's in it for me jumping out of this plane? There's politics.
Or bribing the pilot to take him down softly.
Yeah, however you want to put it, right? So
they even have a fancy word for it. Lobbying.
Yeah, lobbying. Yeah. So now what you have to really understand and look at is, okay, all of these countries that you see that are standing behind Israel are a part of what you call the United Nations, what you call first world countries, what you call countries that are really a part of G7. And what these things are, what these institutions that I just named, and there's a bunch of other institutions that you can name that are really comprised and composed of these countries, what they are their institutions that are there to serve the agenda of these countries. So Israel is a base for these countries to maintain their agenda in that part of the world. You're seeing a cultural war play out in real time. Now, the difference is that the Arabs or the Muslims are much more aligned with traditional culture as opposed to modern culture, modernized culture. So what you're seeing is now in real time is you're seeing what they purport, all of those things that you see in America happening, which is, okay, we have the conservatives, the traditional Christian conservatives
Backwards.
fighting against these liberal ideals. This is what you're seeing happening for real with this war. So you have to understand that Israel is a base for that agenda, which supports and needs to be continuing to flourish by maintaining itself in certain parts of the world to ensure that it does not die, which is the Western culture. Israel is nothing more than the Western culture being disguised as traditionalism.
And that makes a lot of sense.
That's all it is.
It's just like
That makes a lot
puppet.
of sense. Like, even look at where it's located geographically. It's right in the smack middle of all of the so-called enemies of the United States. So if I'm American, I'm England, right?
And Israel has nuclear weapons.
Thank you. I was just going to say that. If I'm American, I'm England, and my enemies are surrounding this specific area, and they have resources that I need, and I have deals with these people to ensure that my system is functioning properly, and I want to ensure that these people don't backstab me, and I want to make sure I keep my thumb on them, like really put the foot on their neck, I'm going to have a position or a base where it's easy. I can just missile here, missile here, missile here. So it makes sense, because I even saw a post on Instagram. This was like years ago. Joe Biden said this. He was like, if there were no Israel, United States would have had to create one.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's interesting. I was talking with a family member maybe about a week ago, and they were saying, you can't go anywhere in the world now where, someone might want to off you because my name is, my last name is very Jewish. You can't get away from, I can't get away from that, like my legal name, And I think it's interesting because
You can change it.
yeah, I can change it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's more of just the ideology, and the ideology is that Jews throughout history, or at least in the way that Jews have kind of put it now, is that they've been kicked out of every country that they have tried to establish themselves in. Like all of, in Africa, in Europe, like they've just been kicked out of all of these different countries. And there's this feeling for Jews that I can understand from where they're coming from. I don't necessarily think I think it's misplaced, but where it's coming from is like this feeling of like not having a place to establish themselves, or feeling like that they're going to be exterminated because of like the historical reasons that they give.
Yeah, but they're doing a phenomenal job of turning the tables.
No, so let me get to that point, because that's really
exterminating
they own media.
Listen,
They're exterminating.
I understand. So that's really where I wanted to get to, because and I always have to preface this that I'm Jewish. That's where I come from.
You grew up Jewish.
I grew up Jewish, but and I'm not a hater of Jews. I'm not an anti-Semite, but Hitler's the people that dealt with Hitler's money and Hitler's finances and the finances of the Nazis were Jews. Mm-hmm. If you go back historically to the areas where the Jews were kicked out of, it's because the Jews oftentimes, we sided with the colonizers of those lands. Mm-hmm. We did the biddings of those lands when it came to the finances, when it came to the debt collection, when it came to all these different things. It's not just because we are Jewish, but it's also because there may be things in which we did throughout history that put us in the predicament that we may find ourselves in. And then it's very easy to point the finger. It's very easy to say, I'm the chosen one, and therefore I can go do anything. Because what you really have here is you have like the small brother and the big brother. The small brother is Israel, and the big brother is America. And America has done all of these different atrocities, and yet you have so many people who are so patriotic. God bless America. You know, I'll look past all of these things that you've done, all these millions of people that you killed. And so Israel in turn is like, well, you know what? You know, we're the chosen ones. You know, everyone's against us because we're Jewish, just because we're Jewish, without also looking at all of the historical aspects of things. And then saying, like, we can go and do this to other people. So because we were oppressed, now we can oppress other people. And that's hands down, like, that's it. And that's what they move with, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the sad part is that, like,
It's just victimization then.
yeah, I mean, the problem is like so much of everything surrounding Jewish accountability is politicized with anti-Semitism,
Right.
that you can't say anything without someone being like, are you anti-Semitic? Because anything that resembles you holding anyone that is Jewish accountable immediately gets labeled as, are you anti-Semitic or anti-Semitic? And what all that is the politicization of facts. It's politicization of what's going on. Now, for people that want to sit around and say, how did the Holocaust happen? And how did the world just sit by and watch it happen? It's because you politicize people. And the way you politicize people, this history is littered with examples of this. The way that Africans were enslaved is because you politicize them as a people. And you politicize them as a people in a way in which you start making them be identified with a specific image or a specific trope or a specific stereotype. It's the way that they started identifying or attributing the African or the black with the image of the devil, with the image of Baphomet, and that type of thing. Now, what that does is it gives you a false justification for your actions. And what happens is, when you're dealing with Jewish people and you're dealing with particularly what's going on in Israel, is the situation has become politicized to such a degree that there's a justification where we've been victimized and we refuse to be victimized ever again. And what that means is we will become a even stronger, better, bigger version of what was done to us. Mm-hmm. And we will become infallible because you victimized us by politicizing us. So what we're going to do is we're going to politicize you for criticizing me. And I'm going to politicize you for even standing against me. And that weaponizing of politicization, in which you start making it become less about facts, because all we're talking about when we're talking about you're politicizing things is what you're doing is you're taking things and you're removing facts and then you're making it about what you want it to be.
It's contemporary.
I mean, yeah, you're just,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's contemporary because, and in a nutshell, even the concept of like what is a Jew, right? It's like historically it's one thing, but now because of the whole politicization of that word or Jew, then it gives a kind of context where it gives the excuse to a certain group of people to act or be a certain kind of way. But historically, even what they're saying is true is not necessarily true because it's contemporary. We're all agreeing that that's the history. We all agree that the Bible's history is correct. We all agree that, but that's not necessarily the truth.
well, it's not necessarily that we all agree. It's that there's a majority of the world that agrees
That believes.
and believes, and they have a lot of influence, and they play the game in having power throughout the world. And the problem is these governments all play into that game because that's how they remain in power. Like, you don't get to be in power as a politician or as a ruler of these superpowers unless you come from a very specific school, you come from a very specific family,
There's levels
you
to
come
this.
from a very specific group of individuals, and it's only a conspiracy when you're not in it. So it kind of depends on how
Honking my eye.
That was the wrong one. That was the one.
how deep you really want to go, because if you really want to go deep in it, it's sort of like you can look at a high school and then you can see the way that a high school functions and just understand that the microcosm of the high school is what happens everywhere else, whether you realize it or not, which means that there's internal politics, there's dynamics, there's power, there's influence, there's
Bully.
there's bullies,
Nerd.
there's money, there's
Goth.
there's whatever it is. There's all of those aspects that are at play. Look at your job. Look at your work. Look at your family. Think about every kind of situation you find yourself dealing with or facing daily. And you can't run from or divorce yourself or divorce your life from the type of politics and the type of things that you have to deal with in terms of dynamics, power issues, influence, seduction, you name it. All of those different aspects are at play in every aspect of your life. But the thing is that all of a sudden, once we start dealing with governments, then now that stuff doesn't exist anymore. Now all of a sudden, when we start dealing with the world's global stage, all of that stuff doesn't exist anymore. Where you're like, no, they're not going to do that kind of stuff. They're not going to function that kind of way. And that's because you've just been conditioned to be an idiot and to turn off your brain and to allow these people to function with infallibility to such a degree that you're like, there's no way that they would function like that. But then the truth of the matter is you would function like that if you were in that position.
I think that's the strange part about it, because most people I know don't trust governments. Most people I know understand that there's these weird dynamics going on in the governments, and to some
But
degree,
then there's a lot of people that do.
That's true too. But to some degree, even those people that do, they still subconsciously, they know, because to some degree, right, you have to recognize the BS, because like you said, like, you're a part of it, like, you play a big part in it, you operate the same way. So human beings, we all know what we do, we all know how our dynamics are, and you can't really trust a human being to lead anything without thinking that there's not going to be any sort of, corruption or any sort of anything that we can look at as negative or bad. It's just the reality of it. And I think people know that, but at some degree, we live in this world where the modern system has kind of put us in this psychosis where we want everything to be like peaches and cream. Like, we want everything to be like this fantasy where there's no problems and there's no issues.
We want it to be a utopia.
Exactly.
We want everything to be an idealistic utopia. And then you want to remove all of the human pitfalls and the deficiencies of a human being. And that's the problem. Is I remember, like, growing up, and I remember, like, in like when I used to have a Tumblr, the thing I never used to understand.
What did you post on your Tumblr?
What did I post? I posted a bunch of stuff. I was a teenager with a Tumblr. Like, it doesn't exist anymore, if that's what you're asking.
You can't find it.
Nothing ever goes away.
No, it's gone. It's deleted. Once you
Send.
delete a Tumblr, it's gone.
Nothing ever goes away.
Are you gonna find it?
I'm not going to find it. I'm just saying
Yeah,
nothing
you
ever
want me
goes
to give
away.
you the screen name? So you guys
Tutibsaa is
can
like, I
find
erased
it?
my life. You can't find me.
Okay, so anyway, this is a very serious topic that we're talking about today, guys. And
Tumblr.
Now you guys want to make it about Tumblrs.
You said Tumblr.
Yeah, because I'm gonna make a point.
All right, let's go.
And the point is this, is a lot of times what I would see on Tumblr is there would be this position where people would have this overinflated ego to such a degree where they would be like, no one understands me and no one else is good but me. And I can't deal with human beings. And I would much rather deal with my cat. I would much rather deal with my dog. I would much rather deal with no human beings at all. And I would much rather just kind of resign myself or relegate myself to existing only within my mind or within like universes that I can control or realities that I can control, which is, okay, now I'm an anime person.
Did you have like
which
an
is-
emo haircut?
Did I?
Did you have like a swoop? Did you used to go like?
No, you probably did.
I did. Did you used to
Exactly.
take pictures like this, like MySpace?
No, I never posted any pictures on my Tumblr.
MySpace?
MySpace? No. I had a MySpace, but I wouldn't post pictures like that. I wasn't that kind of guy. Anyway, what it does is that it creates this kind of utopic thinking where you think that no one understands you and you exist in a time in which you're not supposed to exist within, and the world is so much worse, and if only it was like this, if only it was like that. And then it becomes about these ideals that you're thinking should exist, instead of being like, yeah, people do suck. People are pretty shitty. People are like this, people are like that. But with that being said, maybe I'm shitty too. Maybe I'm not everything that I'm building these people to not be in my head. Maybe I'm the same way. But that kind of accountability or thinking is not there. And I think what happens is you see that being maintained and continued into adulthood, where this idealism comes into play, this utopic type of striving, or like where you're thinking like it needs to be a utopia. It needs to be an ideal where the human pitfalls do not exist, where you don't have to deal with human corruption, where you don't have to deal with the evils that human beings can commit. You don't have to deal with lack of accountability. You don't have to deal with this person picking on you. You don't have to deal with this person not liking you. And then the thing is that you become completely unprepared for life. Because life has all of those things. But you don't think it does.
I saw this video. There was a shooting in East Flatbush. Did you see that video?
No, but you told me about it.
Yeah, it was kind of horrific a little bit. But basically, these in East Flatbush in this apartment complex, there were
50s?
I don't know where it was, but basically, like this one guy was living with his mother downstairs, and he was like, I think he got fired from his job. He was like working security at a prison or something. And then upstairs there was like this family living there, and the guy downstairs was making noise complaints all the time to the people upstairs for like about the family upstairs for like a year. And then it kind of all culminated on this stairwell a couple weeks ago, or two weeks ago, a week ago. And basically, like, and the guy upstairs with the family, he was a bodybuilder, like a big dude, you know? And the guy downstairs was kind of a small dude, kind of looked like a turtle. He was just like a smaller dude.
And he was a security guard?
And he was a security guard at a prison.
Yeah.
And he got fired. He had some problems. Like, he was in his 40s, was living with his mom, whatever. He had some, like, something going on. But I get to it later. But basically, they're fighting on the stairwell, they're arguing. And the bodybuilder goes and he takes a pair of scissors and kind of presses it up against the guy downstairs.
Yeah.
And the guy from downstairs takes out a gun out on the stairwell and just pops him like a couple of times. And then his son is running away from the shooting, and he just goes up to his son and hits him a couple of times too, and then goes up to him execution style and pops his son in the head, and then goes back to sorry, this is very graphic. Goes back to the father, who's lying on the floor, kind of trying to pull. You know, you see it on the video because the video is from the.
What do you mean the video? There's a video of this?
Yeah, unfortunately, on Twitter. but it's like, you know, the apartment complex, they have the video camera.
Oh, security camera.
Security camera,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So he goes up to him, he's like trying to like go, and he goes up to him, shoots him in the head a couple of times, and then he goes to the elevator and kind of calmly walks into the elevator, and he was found 2 days later. I think he tried to stab a cop, and they killed the guy.
You know,
But
The guy that killed everyone.
the guy that killed
the two
everyone,
guys?
yeah. But just to make my point, though, it's like it's interesting because the split-second decision that the father made of taking a pair of scissors, you know, thinking that like he was like not, you know, nothing could happen to him, nothing could go wrong, you know, that he didn't have to deal with life, like you were saying. It's like he not only got himself killed, but he also got his son killed, which I think is very interesting. And then I also think it's interesting how, like, you know, they had a festival in Israel where Hamas came and they killed a bunch of people at this music festival. So why are you having a music festival right next to Gaza, right next to your enemies? Like, why are you living in an area that's right next to your enemies, surrounded completely by your enemies? Because then, yes, children are getting killed. It's a terrible thing. We don't think that children getting killed, no matter who they are, Jews, Palestinians, whoever, is a good thing, or anybody getting killed in general.
Anyone getting killed is an
You know?
atrocity.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like you are putting yourself in those positions. Like we always say, the bullet you see, the bullet that kills you is the one that you don't see coming. And we put ourselves in these positions, not even realizing that we're not only affecting ourselves, but we're also affecting our children at the end of the day.
you know, that's funny you brought that point, because that's actually literally where I was going to mention that same thing. And it's kind of funny to me, right? Because just bringing it back a little bit, because it makes so much sense that people put themselves in positions all the time. Because I'm sure that the guy downstairs, like you said, for a whole year he's been complaining, and the people upstairs, they were like, fuck this guy, whatever. Then whatever, we don't care.
Probably.
So it's almost like,
He's probably on Tumblr.
right, right, like Tutibsaa. But the point I'm trying to make is you can easily fall victim to your own destruction or your own corruption just simply by not taking other people serious enough, or simply by not looking at how your actions
like a human.
are going to affect other people or
Yeah.
affect things around you.
Yeah.
So in this case, right, with the situation in Gaza, yes, we can say Hamas was wrong for doing what they did. Yes, we can say Israel is wrong for what they're doing. But at the same time, I think there's like something else behind it, right? There has
Sure.
to be. Because it's not even just about, is this person wrong? Is this person right? It's about, okay, there's a situation that's going on, and this situation is not right for anyone.
Right.
So there's no wrong or right in the situation. I think that's the problem I see with this thing, because it's so politicized. People are trying to take sides, but
Right.
there is no sides to take. It's just evil is evil. There's no wrong, there's no right. It's just chaos, it's destruction. So what
Right.
side are you going to take? That you can't take any side. You have to just call the cat, and it is what it is. But I also have another thing. It's like, what exactly is Hamas? Because I have my own personal theory on what Hamas is. Because how is it possible that a group of people in Gaza who are basically second-class citizens, where are they getting these guns and weapons
America.
from? Thank you.
America.
So we can clearly see that there's something else again going on.
Hold
here.
on. Actually, again, this is the thing, is I think we're in the age of proxy wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily...
What do you mean by that?
I don't necessarily think it would be accurate to say that America is Hamas.
I'm not. No. No. That's
They're-
not what we're saying.
Yeah, or
what
they're
we're saying
being
is
they're being backed by Hamas.
maybe.
Or
but
a lot
the
of
thing
terrorist
is,
organizations are they train. They're trained by American soldiers.
Yeah, some are.
Yeah.
Some are. I'm not saying
but
that they're
here's
not.
the thing, right? Even if it's not America, there's something else, because I know for a fact, right? Going back to like places like the Congo, because I see Warrior Zubakande is talking about the Congo. The Congo, Haiti, Jamaica, all these places, you will go in the inner cities and find people with like big AR-15s and AKs and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Where are these guys getting this stuff from? Gun production is not in any of those countries.
Yeah, of
so they
course.
have to come from somewhere.
Have to be coming from the
Somebody
West.
is funding it somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's a proxy war going on.
Yeah.
So there's like there's a puppeteer behind the scenes really doing this. So I think that this whole war has been started as an excuse to go in and kind of like finish off or get whatever they're trying to get from that land. But I don't know.
It's like an ideological war. Like you don't even necessarily need the oppressor anymore, because
Well-
it's like in Rwanda, it's like the Hutus and the Tutsis. You just made it so that the lighter skinned people got, special privileges in society, and then they just kind of went at each other. They gave each other guns, and they did the mass extermination that occurred between them.
Well, hold on. Let's play it out. Let's hypothetically play it out and try and logically make sense of it. Okay, so you guys think, because I'm thinking, right? I think that like this whole thing is because you really caught America with their pants down, and you caught Israel with their pants down.
Right.
Because what you're seeing
Social
is
media
you're
did.
seeing Israel being goaded. Like Israel took the bait, and they took the bait in a flawless, irresponsible way. Because anyone that's intelligent would know that in this day and age, the last thing you want to do is to be caught holding the gun in a time like this, because everyone is so sensitive. Now, Israel took the bait, all right? I think Hamas or whoever is behind Hamas, because I think that there's countries that are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause that are backing Hamas, and they said, hey,
Malaysia.
go do this. I'm talking about even bigger superpowers.
Russia.
I'm talking about
Now we're
like,
getting
yeah,
to the
I'm
now
talking
we're getting
about-
to the real meat
I'm
of
talking
the
about like
thing.
big superpowers, and they're like, hey, they're like, if you do this, what?
China.
No one's
So-
ever gonna take us seriously.
Like, yeah, no, you guys have to
You
fucking
guys.
know, yeah, you guys have to know when we're having a real conversation and when we're gonna be serious.
No,
and
but
then
you
when-
Continue.
you got to put a little humor in it when it's getting too real.
Yeah,
Nah,
true.
no, not really.
Go for
Because
it.
we gotta keep it real sometimes, and then not worry about trying to lighten it up. Now, sometimes yes. Now, with that being said, there are certain countries I think that were like, hey, if you do this and this happens, such and such, when it happens, and then they start wiping out a bunch of Palestinians, then the world is going to have an outcry. And then when the world has an outcry, it will be impossible for anyone to stop us invading Israel or invading such country or doing this or doing that. Because at this point, it's not becoming about exterminating the Jews. It's about stopping Israel. It's about being like, enough is enough. You can't do that anymore. It's like when you have two siblings fighting, eventually the dad has to be like, enough is enough, and step in and be like, no, you can't do this anymore. And I think that Israel took the bait, they got goaded into it, and they failed miserably at taking the bait. And then now you're seeing America with its pants down.
Now it's getting good, right? Now it's getting real, because now we're seeing in real. We even spoke about this, like the start of World War III.
Yeah,
we had a
an
whole
episode where we
about
talk
this.
about World War III.
And I feel like a lot of our topics have been leading up to this, because we've been talking about China and Russia a lot, things going on in Africa a lot. So seems to be a lot.
Intuitive. No, I'm kidding.
It's not. No, it has
Okay.
nothing to do with
Just
being
connecting the
intuitive. It has
pieces.
everything to do with the fact that, like, if again we're going back to that high school example, it's like those human aspects are still at play. So you have to be able to read the room and read what's happening and to think about logically
Right.
what would be happening next or where it's going to go
Right.
in order to prepare yourself accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we have inside knowledge. I'm not saying we don't have inside knowledge. I'm just saying,
Plead the fifth.
you know, logically, what would be happening?
So, what would you do, right, if, for instance, something was to happen here on American soil? Because I think a lot of people don't
out,
think
bro.
it's ever going to happen. And
I'm
I think
out,
that's
yeah.
the scary part about being in America.
Deuces.
Because people think America is invincible. People think like this place would never fall. But Rome always falls. And if you don't know, you don't understand. Like, this is just Rome again. Rome 5.0.
But that's the thing. That's the problem. So I was watching on the plane. I was watching Star Wars. And you know why people don't like the so-called prequels, like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith?
Disney? Because
No.
Disneyfied it?
Not because Disney Disneyfied it, because it touches on the psychology of the Western mentality. Now, in A New Hope, like in the original Star Wars, and then The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, it's because the Westerners are the rebels fighting against the imperialism coming upon them by the tyrannical empire.
I am your father.
All right. Now, it's about the reason why politics and all that kind of stuff, you can't impose it on somebody else. You can't impose governments on somebody else. But the reason why people don't like the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, it's because you see the corruption of politics, the waste of time of bureaucracy. And then you see that the evildoers are not necessarily the politicians. The evildoers are not necessarily the people out there fighting the war. The evildoers are the people that allow the system to maintain itself and not rising up to say enough is enough. This cannot continue anymore. And that's the problem, is you're attacking the American psychology with those other prequels. So people don't like the prequels because it attacks the American mentality of thinking that, well, I'm not a part of whatever American atrocities America goes out and commits because it's not me. But then you're still a part of it because you're a part of
The system.
the system. And that's the difference. I was watching it and I'm like, no wonder nobody likes these. I'm like, they don't like them because philosophically it's attacking the fact that your hands are not clean.
I think I gotta watch those movies again. I was very young when I saw those movies.
I mean, yeah, we were all young, but that's the thing is like, you're not going to pick up on those kind of things until you kind of watch it and then you kind of realize and you're like, oh, like that's really what it's talking about. It's actually talking about the dangers of governments, the dangers of what happens when you don't hold politicians accountable, when it becomes about bureaucracy. Because the way that the movie starts, I'm telling you, I'm just like, I was wondering why I had it on and why I was watching it. But the way that the movie starts, it's because one, rogue corporation invades another country. And then everyone's like, that can't happen.
Sounds familiar.
They're like, that can't happen. That can't happen. And no one steps in to do anything and stop them. And then eventually, that's what starts the whole process of what you call like the Star Wars movies and all that kind of stuff. Because what happens is the country that's being invaded is like, okay, well, we have to do what we have to do. And then it starts this war.
Even the Jedi, like the Jedi come off as, oh, we good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Test, hello? Oh, hey, yeah, the Jedi even, they come off as like this I think something's going on with the mic.
What do you mean?
It's fine.
It's fine. Oh, it might be my headphones. Okay, there we go. Got it. Yeah, it's interesting because like the Jedi kind of come off as this like pure
Too arrogant.
type of arrogant group of people, but in reality, it's like something's
Something's wrong
I'm
with
just
the
gonna
mic.
take off. It's the core. Yeah. But like, yeah, the Jedi, they come off as kind of like arrogant, like you know, evil is not within them in some sort of way, where they've kind of like reached this place where you know they're pure in some sort of way. But then I think Anakin is the most honest of all of the Jedi because he realizes like that evil is still kind of inside of him, and that's why he like takes himself out completely. He pulls like a Dave Chappelle and goes to Africa, and
What?
No, he doesn't.
No, bro.
Anakin.
No.
No, the problem with Anakin is that Anakin.
Luke,
Anakin.
excuse me.
Anakin.
I just mixed the two up.
Yeah, Anakin never
Yeah,
held
yeah.
himself accountable, bro. What are you talking about? Anakin went out and killed a whole bunch of people.
Right. He is. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad. Luke Skywalker. I meant to say Luke Skywalker. So Luke right? Not.
Man, mixing up movies. Come on.
Yeah. I'm getting mixed up with them. Luke Skywalker proves that like when he goes off and he like basically lives on his own and stuff like that, and then like he burns all of like the Jedi manuscripts and all of that because he thinks it's just like a bunch of bullshit. Because at the end of the day, as much as he wanted to be a Jedi, as much as he wanted the Force, it's like he couldn't also escape evil. He couldn't escape also just being like a human being at the end of the day and not just like some uppity, you know, Jedi.
Yeah, I mean the thing, like I know we're using Star Wars and we're using all of these metaphors and we're using all of these analogies to kind of drive points home. But what can't be lost in this whole situation is the fact that you have atrocities being committed and they're being justified in real time and people are allowing them and people are saying that they're okay. And the thing is like the buck has to stop. And at what point are things going to stop? Because they're going to get out of hand, and they're going to get out of hand very quickly to a point where there's going to be a massive amount of bloodshed, and it's going to be another world war.
You know, because Warrior Zulbakande, he's asking a lot about how will this affect Africa, and he kept bringing up the Congo, and I think that's a kind of like a good segue. The reality is, the phone I'm using, the phone you're probably using to watch this, the laptop, all the technology, Tesla, all of these different things, all of it is coming from the continent of Africa. Every single thing. And it's a good example of exactly what we're even talking about. It's like people know the atrocities that happen there. People know the atrocities happening to African people and what all of this technology really means for the land, what it really means for the people. But you even see people post on social media, oh, the Congo, nobody's talking about the Congo.
Nobody's talking about Sudan.
Nobody's talking about Sudan. Nobody's talking about any of this. But the war in Israel is kind of like, you know, taking over. It's even taking over the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
But
They're not sending as much funding to Ukraine.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and Ukraine is kind of losing in the war right now, even.
Yeah, because now they're having to defend. That's what I'm saying,
Two fronts.
bro.
So
Like,
it's getting really bad.
They like this is the thing. Okay, now I'm just gonna say it.
Finally.
They fucked with Putin, and they shouldn't have fucked with Putin, because Putin's that nigga,
Bro, he rides beers, bro.
and like what
Shirtless.
he's doing,
Shirtless.
what he's doing is like masterful. You're talking about on a global scale. Like he's reached like Alexander the Great status. He's reached like the status they want to give to like Winston Churchill in
Genghis
terms
Khan.
of like Genghis Khan,
Napoleon.
in terms like Napoleon, in terms of like what he's pulling off. Like, I wish I was gonna be able to be alive like 200 years from now, and to see the way that they talk about him in history books, knowing what I know now, because what he's doing is masterful in the way that he completely shifted the war from being on his front to now taking it to America in a completely different way, to the way where he caught America with their pants down, in a way where he's attacking them financially. He's attacking them physically.
Because of China, too.
He's attacking them on all fronts. The perception around America, the perception around America's baby, Israel, is insane.
Yeah.
Like, he's winning this war in a way where I'm like, man, Putin is handing it to America, and no one wants to talk about how masterful and how intelligent Putin is and what's happening globally. And that's the thing, is I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, why are they messing with this guy? Because what he's doing is, now you guys are making great points in terms of the fact that like no one cares about the war in Ukraine. And then what do you think's going to happen when he crushes the opposition in Ukraine?
Trump would never let this happen.
Like, what do you guys think is going to happen next? Like, at that point, it's like, who else do you think is going to get involved? Because now you've riled up the whole Arab world. What do you think Saudi Arabia is going to do? You know how much money Saudi Arabia has?
Nigga money, hi.
What do you think the Arab Emirates are going to do? What do you think Qatar is going to do? What do you think all of these Arab superpowers are going to do?
Yeah.
Gas about to be high as hell.
Like, look at BRICS, bro. Like, they're already, these countries are forming their institutions to fight the other institutions.
And it's been happening like
It's been
so
happening.
intelligently and
It's been happening so
low-key.
intelligently.
But it's also interesting that we're talking about this in like future tense, but really in reality, like we are in World War III.
It's happening, but it hasn't been outwardly fought as apparently as we're used to it being fought, because we live in an age of proxy wars. We live in an age of where you can't bring things out that easily, or you can't be that obvious about it. You have to be very subtle and very, under the surface about it. And that's the thing, is like, if you don't understand how to fight without outwardly fighting, then you are a loser in today's age, politically, spiritually, you name it, physically, you name it. If you are not able to master the art of knowing how to move intelligently, then you are failing at life. And Putin is doing it in a way where I'm like, man, like, that guy is so intelligent. Like, hats off to Putin, because you're just like sitting here watching him outmaneuver America at every turn, everywhere, every time you see them trying to outmaneuver Putin. Because I'm sitting here and I'm like, bro, how is he going to outmaneuver them now with this war in Ukraine? But then now, like, what is going on in Gaza, and the way that they basically goaded America into another war that makes them drop the war in Ukraine and then catches them with their pants down. I'm like, man,
It's chess, not checkers.
yeah, and that motherfucker is Bobby Fischer.
I read that book.
Huh?
I was reading that book once.
What book?
I had Bobby Fischer's book.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a good book. But chess is a serious game, and it's a slow, tactical game. I mean, people do play it quickly, yeah, with the hitting the time and everything. But really, like, if you're watching your opponent, like, you're watching their moves, you're watching the steps that they're taking, and then you're hitting them with the steps that they're taking and catching them when they make a mistake. And that's really what this game is. Like, World War III is not like a short 6 to 8 year period. World War III is going to be a very, very, very long.
It is. It's already
conflict.
started.
It's
already
probably been
started.
going on years
been going
already.
on a
It's
long
not like
time.
the
So-
thing is about World War III that I don't think we think about is like it's not going to be like just dropping the bomb. Like it's not going to just be missiles on missiles like nuclear weapons.
It's coming to that point, but it hasn't been that point.
Yeah, I mean Iran has already
Yeah.
said that it's going, that we've crossed the line, that US has crossed the line. Like they're going to take measures. Hezbollah is going to come in at some point.
Yeah, I mean they're already doing that, and
Yeah.
America recently attacked a something in Syria that is backed by Iran. So I mean it just like we're in it and it's happening. And the thing is that you can continue to bury your head in the sand, or you can get caught up in like the politics of what's happening, and then you're the only one that's gonna be, left in the dust. And that's what's kind of happening. Is like so many people are getting caught up in what's wrong and what's right, instead of like understanding the game and what's really happening. Like if Gaza gets wiped out, shoulder shrug. If Israel gets wiped out, shoulder shrug. In the long run, in the long scheme of things, none of my family is there. So I'm not looking at it like, hey, I really care. But I'll say this.
I don't think people even really care. Everybody
People don't,
wants to have
but they're
the
not even
illusion
watching.
that they care.
But the problem is they're not even. It's sort of like they have this illusion of skin in the game, where they're thinking like, oh yes, like this, instead of just being like, what's really happening. They're so emotionally invested that they're not even allowing themselves to have a little bit of zoomed out perspective, a zoomed out scope to kind of watch the game. They're so wrapped up in what's happening and their emotional investment in it that they're not even thinking about like, maybe I should be thinking about like what's next and how the game is moving and what's about to happen.
Right.
So it's gonna be an interesting next couple of years. I'll just say that. And let me just make it abundantly clear, we are not here as a proponent for the taking of human life. And we're not here as a proponent for any of the atrocities done in anyone's names against anyone. We're here watching and looking and seeing what's happening and trying to use our brains and trying to use our intelligence to, get an understanding of what's really happening on the world stage. We're not, saying we're a proponent for nuclear war. We're not here saying we're a proponent for any of this or any of that. We're here saying that you have to be able to sit and watch and understand what's happening and then use your intelligence to kind of pierce behind the curtain to understand what's really happening in terms of the chess game globally. And if you're not doing that, then there's something wrong with you.
It's interesting how we justify retaliation, though. Don't you guys think like?
You mean like they got bombed, so they start killing everybody, so it's justified?
No, just justifying it based on some sort of like oppression that they may have had. Because, when the Palestinians retaliate, then they're just called terrorists.
Yeah, but that's more and more politicization of
Right, because you only call a Muslim a terrorist. You don't call a Jew a terrorist. You don't call a Christian a
Yeah,
terrorist.
but America is the biggest terrorist in the world.
Right.
But you don't call
Right.
America a terrorist because
Right.
you can't. Because
they're the
America
ones
is
that
the
coined
heroes.
the word.
Yeah, they're the ones that coined the word. So I mean,
Right.
it's just a game. But the thing is that like, you have to understand that the world is a game, and you either are understanding and figuring out the game, and then understanding your part to play, or where you fit, or where you stand, and what cards you have to play in the game, or you don't.
Right.
And that's the thing is, people aren't really thinking about what part or where they are in the game. And that's the thing is like, I don't have a vested interest in, one party winning or one party not winning, because at the end of the day, it's sort of like, the way it's going to shake is the way it's going to shake. And the way it's going to go is the way it's going to go. But I'm going to make sure that I'm watching and looking, and the way it's looking is America's looking real shaky right now.
You think Biden's going to win again? Nah.
You mean the
And
election?
the polls not looking too good.
Biden-
Trump is doing better than
Bro,
him in the polls.
Biden ain't winning a bingo game. Okay? Like, it's a wrap for my guy.
That'd be fun to
okay?
watch. That would be entertaining
Like,
to watch.
It's like he ain't home, bro. Like if you knock on Biden's door, it's gonna be one of those birds, those no, it's like the bird that comes out at a certain time. It's like the cuckoo bird
The
or whatever.
peekaboo.
The peekaboo bird. Yeah, that's what's going on in Biden's head right now, bro.
Dang.
Like it ain't nothing. His spirit's not there.
You think America will give Trump another 4?
I mean, if Trump wins the Republican nomination, bro, it's a wrap.
What about like his indictment and everything he's going through right now? You think that'll have an effect? They'll try to use it against him from being able to run, or
I don't know. I think the legal system is so slow that they
Yeah,
have
that's
to
true.
wrap up the whole.
It's gonna take forever.
Because if I was Trump,
What do they really have?
I
on him,
would
though?
just draw it out until
Forever.
after the election.
Yeah.
Because
But
then
what-
at that point,
But what do they really have on him though?
I don't know, bro.
I don't think there's really anything.
I don't think they have
honestly.
anything really.
It's just them trying to put negativity
But
on
if
his
Trump wins the election, it's gonna become like a wild card.
Yeah.
Like in terms of what happens next.
But it's just like what Trump said about Hillary when they had that presidential debate, and they were talking about the tax cuts, and he was like, the same tax cuts I get are the same tax cuts that Hillary's friends get.
and then
It's
he's like, and that's why she's never gonna stop the tax cuts.
yeah, that was.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, is like Trump enchanted America because he was just being honest.
Yeah.
Like honesty is such a huge part of charming and enchanting. And that's even just speaking spiritually. That it's like you can get so far just by admitting like I'm just a human being. Like people miss the aspect of poetry. What makes something poetic is the vulnerability of the situation and the vulnerability of, I know I'm like, are you dropping the bomb or what?
No, I'm waiting to
And-
see if you're gonna say something else. But you already dropped the bomb. But people did.
It's- yeah.
That went over a lot of people's heads.
It's okay, but it's not about whether or not they get it. Huh?
No, I'm kidding.
But nonetheless, it's like people miss at the aspect of poetry that makes it endearing, or why people align with certain things that are written, or what makes it poetic is like, damn, like that's true. Well, why didn't I think of that? Or why wasn't I able to identify that? Because it becomes universal to some degree. So it's like if you say like the moon will continue to rise and the moon will continue to have an association with the water, and that's the way I would love for you and I to have to continue to associate. Someone's going to be like, oh, damn. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if you're just being honest about the association between the moon and water and how that will never end, and then you say that to somebody,
Is
they're
that what you
probably-
say to your partner?
No, that's not. I'm just being.
Come outside with me for a second.
No, that's the
You see
shit
this?
you would say.
The moon and the
You see the way you're even running with it? You're probably sitting here like, let me test it out, see if it works, because I'm going to use it later.
It does. It
Huh?
does. It does.
What?
I've used lines like that in
Alright.
high school.
It works.
It
In
works.
high school, and
It
when you're
works.
dealing with an imbecile. But most people are imbeciles in this day and age. But nonetheless, let's get into rapid fire, because I know we'll be here all night. E30 over here with his comedy jokes. Yeah, I know. I never said they were funny. I said they were comedy jokes.
People
All right.
laughed.
E30's like,
Sen,
someone
you-
out there
you
is
laughed.
laughing. Huh?
You laughed.
Yeah, you
You
laughed.
laughed.
First up,
We got the president of Turkey.
Oh, wait. I just want. Oh, yeah, I'll do it later. The sponsor, but go ahead.
Okay. President of Turkey is quote unquote threatening war with Israel, saying that the West is too weak to complete a ceasefire. So Turkey was actually one of the first major Muslim nations to recognize Israel as a country after they claimed their independence. And then it's also been said that he didn't actually declare war or say that he would go to war with them, but his comments as of late, because they have, a relationship.
They have your political relations.
Comments as of late have been like, this can't keep happening. So now there's this air of like, how are you going to step in if you see that there's something wrong?
So we flew through Turkey, right? And we flew through Istanbul, and we had a 20-hour layover in Istanbul. And so the guy that facilitated, like, the like hustlers that like facilitate rides. So we were talking to him, and he was like, "Where are you guys from?" And we were telling him, "Where are you guys going?" And then he was telling us some stuff about Istanbul, and he said something that really made me stop and think. And he said, what a lot of people don't understand about Istanbul, and particularly Turkey, is Turkey is where you can cross from Asia into Europe,
Right.
from Europe into Asia, and
Right.
from Asia
Is it Greece?
into Russia, and from Russia into Asia, and from Europe into Russia, and
like a
so
little
on and so
5
forth.
points.
And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like,
Very strategic.
Istanbul,
Oh shit.
Very strategic.
particularly Turkey, is like, they have a lot of cards to play. So if Turkey's saying, if Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is out here saying that, then hey, there might be some fire there. If he's out talking about, I want the smoke, then I'd be very careful, because you might see some people real fast, because there's a lot of Asian Muslims out there. There's a lot of Russian Muslims out there. And there's a lot of Eastern European
Chechens.
Muslims out there. Even, I don't know if you guys saw this or not.
The airport.
The airport
Yeah.
in Dagestan, bro. They took over the airport.
I don't know what
They
you're
were
talking
like
about.
UFC
in Dagestan.
fighters.
So Dagestan is, like Habib from the UFC.
Yeah.
Okay, so how he's like
I like
Russian,
that
Russian
guy.
Muslim.
Khabib Nurmagomedov.
So he's from Dagestan. So all of those like Russian Muslim fighters that you see, they're from a region in Russia called Dagestan. So
They
there's a
fight
major
bears.
airport in Dagestan, right? Bro, they stormed the airport, took over the airport, and then stormed the runway to get to people flying in from Israel.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real.
Wow.
Bro, that's how serious it is.
Wow.
Like, they shut down the airport. Like, I saw some of the video, and they like, like those hallways you walk through to get to the plane. Like, after they scan your boarding pass, and then like there's sometimes those rooms that like you can't ever see what's going on in there. Bro, they like stormed into one of those rooms trying to get to the gate. And like the people walked out, they're like, no, the gate is that way. Like, they were like, nah, like it ain't this way. Like, don't beat us up. The gate is that way.
Wow.
Like, it was like that, bro.
Was Habib there?
I don't know.
No, it's not there.
I don't know, but it just like it's a wrap, bro.
Wow.
But Turkey doesn't have nuclear weapons.
How do you know?
That's what they say. That's true. Yeah, I don't know.
None of us
You're
know.
right, I don't know.
He has nuclear
Everybody
weapons.
got
You
to
don't
see
know. I
at
don't
this
know.
point.
Like, come on.
Did you get to see Istanbul?
Yeah, no, it was at night.
It was at night.
So we saw it in the day a little bit, but we didn't get to like go out into the city and all that
Did
kind
you
of stuff.
get some baklava?
Yeah, we did.
Was it good?
No, we didn't. No, but we ate at a Turkish restaurant. It was great.
Planet Nibiru
Snacks.
or Planet X?
Wait, we'll leave it. We'll leave it. Keep going, Kenny Bashi.
All right. Next up, Meta is being sued by 33 attorney generals. A lawsuit came up in California based on the addictive features of Facebook, Instagram, yada yada. So, in a federal lawsuit filed in California, 33 attorney generals alleged that Meta's products have harmed minors and contributed to a mental health crisis in the United States. On Tuesday, supposedly this legal assault is a part of a broader effect by the states and the feds to rein in on Meta and Google's, kind of control of the world that's kind of been flourishing over the past years with relatively little regulation. So we see like Instagram is getting nuts. Like I'm seeing like nipples, like titties.
Really?
Like titties. I saw a vagina on Instagram like yesterday, and I'm like, what's this? What is this place?
For You page.
This is Xtube. What's going on?
I mean, you make a good point. I mean, I'm addicted to social media. I'll just say that. I'll just put that out there.
Put it out there to us earlier, and now
put it out there to us earlier, and then you got all weird about it.
This
Yeah,
is
I mean,
intimacy.
I'm just saying it is a real thing. It does actually exist.
Yeah, because it's people are putting their whole lives on social media.
Yeah.
Like the sad part is like people really don't understand that social media is not real life.
Well, that's the thing. People in their real lives don't feel very accomplished. They don't feel satisfied. So
Their
when you
lives
go on
suck.
social media,
Their real
they're
lives suck.
creating their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're creating a fake artificial reality for themselves, and it's putting them in this weird kind of like pool of just nonsense. So people don't want to let that go. Like you said, their real life sucks. Why would I want to go
Well, they're
face
living in
real
illusions.
life
Yeah.
when I could just go into the virtual world?
Right, and with Meta, yeah, exactly. We're talking about the
It's
virtual
even called
world.
Meta. Metaverse,
Apple
right?
is making the first spatial computer, which is basically like people can talk to other people and see other people's faces moving, but it's not their real face. It's like an AI generated face, but then the mouth is moving.
But you're not actually talking to the person.
You're actually talking to the person, but it's not the actual person's face. It's like an AI computed version of their face.
That looks like them with their voice, like like I call you on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. So I can
But-
see your face, and it's like
But
you-
why?
Why would I want to call you
FaceTime
and then
is
see your
enough.
face?
Why can't you just like FaceTime them?
Yeah, I don't know how it all works, but I'm just saying, like, people are living in these. The whole point is to have people, to make it more desirable for people to live in these virtual spaces without interacting with each other in public, and it's becoming more and more desirable.
Are they still doing that thing with the metaverse where you can like buy like an apartment, like there's like real estate,
Yeah,
and like you could
of
buy like
course.
land and
Yeah.
farm and all that?
Absolutely.
For real?
Yeah, especially during when NFTs were a lot bigger, they kind of fallen off a bit now. But like people were buying.
I heard people lost a lot of money.
Yeah, people lost a lot of money, but they were trying to make it this whole like celebrity thing, like oh, you could party with like
Travis
Scott or something, or like Snoop Dogg in their mansion,
But it's like
virtually.
a virtual mansion.
But it's a
Yeah, it's
virtual.
virtual real
So
estate.
it's like hanging out with Travis Scott on.
With like, look, this is
In
the
the comment
hologram.
Yeah,
at the-
like look, this
at
is the $100,000 NFT that I bought in my virtual mansion. Like this is it here. This is it being displayed here. People are.
Sen, it's crazy, Sen.
That's
Like
literally
you
what
can have
people
an
are doing.
avatar, right? And like it
Yeah.
can look like you, or you can make it look like however you want it to look. And then they put you in this space where they have plots of land called units in a digital world. And you can buy the plots of land, and you can buy houses. You
Ain't
can
this The
build
Sims?
farms. Bro,
Kinda,
that's what I said.
that's
The
the original
Sims,
version
the
of that.
Sims.
Remember
was-
the
Yeah.
game
hold
The
on.
Sims?
Of course.
Right. But
Yeah.
now it's on a whole
IRL
nother level.
or VR, not IRL. VR.
You could put yourself in it,
Same
like
shit.
VR, put yourself in it. So you're in the virtual world. And now it's real money involved.
Okay, so hold on. So I'm in my 30s, and I'm looking at y'all like the way like a 60-year-old looks at us. Like, cause I'm like, what?
Bro.
I'm like, what? What y'all talking about?
Bro, this shit is so crazy. Like, you know how we can go and buy properties, right? Let's say we wanted to go buy a house right now, like a real property. There's people taking their actual money, literal money, to buy properties in the virtual world for them to sit down in their studio apartment, put on their VR headphones, and then enjoy their house.
But it's not a real house.
No, it's online, but they're enjoying their house, like a pool, like everything, a house
Yeah,
in their little square apartment.
But the thing that I'm thinking about now is like, what's the next topic?
Wait, can I just say this? Because I remember this from a long time ago. Like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, I forget where the interview was or where they said this, but they were basically saying that they would never let their children use the products that they create.
Of course.
Of course.
That's a given, of course.
And that says it all.
You don't get high off your own supply. 10 crack commandments.
Next up, we got this is an article that came from 2019, but it sort of has some relevance still. In 2019, the FBI uncovers a chop shop for human body parts. So allegedly, there's this place in Arizona, right, where there's
Allegedly?
actually 4 businesses. 3 of them are still functional. And with these businesses, you can donate your like a dead body. Like you would kind of write yourself off before you die or whatever, you know, and then you donate
For money?
your body, right? And it was called the Biological Research Center. And they basically found a bucket full of heads, arms, legs.
The FBI found this?
Yeah, they had to raid it after like a investigation that was going on. A cooler filled with penises.
Oh, what?
A woman's head was even sewn onto a man's body, and it was just there, like.
Yo, what kind of Frankenstein shit is
No,
So-
this sounds like
Bro,
that
fuck?
movie, The Human Centipede or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
basically, it was that this is like a legal service, like it's a real thing that can actually be happening if the business is accredited. But this one business in Arizona, for some reason, wasn't accredited.
What is
and
the
that's why they got raided.
What is the accreditation that would allow you to sew people's
It
heads
means that
together?
you're letting the government get their cut.
Exactly.
Right.
So
That's
it's
interesting.
scientific
No
research.
pun
Is
intended.
that the purpose?
Their cut.
I guess so.
So I'm
That's
still
so
not. I'm trying to
interesting.
understand. Like,
Okay,
what's
so-
the purpose? Though?
All right, so let's talk about it.
That's interesting.
So, anyone that's not an idiot or anyone that's not burying their head in the sand knows and understands. Like the movie Get Out is about harvesting of people's organs,
Right.
thinking that you can gain people's spiritual abilities or their genies or the things that give them the ability to, you know, manifest certain things into the physical realm through actually taking the physical body part. Now,
Like grandma trying to be a black man.
huh?
Remember, it was the elderly, and then they were like the helpers in the house, but it was like grandma and grandpa had taken over the bodies of those people, like the gardener. Don't you remember?
I haven't seen the movie in a few years.
Yeah,
But I just remember the guy wanted the photographer's eyes
Yeah.
so that he could be able to take pictures the same way. And that's completely, you know, not accurate in the real sense, because just because you gain someone's physical eyes doesn't mean you gain their spiritual predispositions or baraka or the things that allow them to. Who was that? Was that the baby?
Yeah, just when you said that.
You know, don't do that. Don't do that on there. But yeah, it doesn't mean you can gain those things. But what that is that it's actually speaking to the real situation that happens globally, where you have people that are legitimately, you know, harvesting other people for organs. And organs are expensive, man. Like, you can make a lot of money selling organs.
Right.
And, like, you don't think that the aspect, like, okay, let's put it this way. Human trafficking is real, right? We can all admit human trafficking is real.
Yeah.
Still
Right?
happens.
It still happens. It's still a thing. So then what do you think is going to be the added part to human trafficking is, okay, well, once you've completely juiced this human being that you're looking at as an orange, or as an object, and completely juice them and use them. Okay, now you don't have the people that are interested in having sex with the 14-year-old girl or the 7-year-old girl. And then now you're like, what am I going to do next? You don't think you're going to call up your guy in Arizona and be like, need a kidney? What do you need?
We need to put some heads together.
Tell me what you need.
That part, all of that I understand. What I'm trying to understand is why they're sewing the body parts together. That's the weird part that I'm not getting.
Obviously, we're not supposed to get it.
I don't want to know. I don't really want to know. You want to know?
Yeah,
don't
like
wanna know. Do
I
you wanna
don't
know?
necessarily
I just
want
thought, I just
don't
thought they
care.
revealed
I'm
the
good.
reason why, because that's like
Did they
so
reveal
strange.
the reason
Like,
why? They didn't
I
say
just
why.
know that whoever's working there probably there's like an abundance of body parts, and
they're
then
just
they're
bored?
just like and they're like, you want to
Wow.
sew this lady's head
Interesting though that
on
it
that
was
guy's body? Chris Jenner or no, Caitlyn Jenner.
it was just interesting that the FBI
Damn it.
the FBI
a
found
great
this. I think it's funny that the FBI found this.
Why the FBI is they're probably like, we got to give up one of our joints. They're like, let's give up this one.
That's
Eh.
yeah, because I was talking. So I was driving this guy. I drive Uber. I was driving this dude, and it was a Mexican guy, and he was telling me that in Mexico, there in this one town, there was this lady, and she used to sell meat in like on the street and stuff. And the gangs, they came up to her and they're like, okay, you got to pay your tax. And she didn't want to pay her tax. And she was really popular. She was making a lot of money. You know, she was selling whatever meat she had on the street. And the gangs were like, you know, you got to pay the tax. And she was like, no. And she wrapped up her stuff and she left. And she left the streets. And a couple months later, the gangs call her up and they're like, listen, like, we want you to, you know, serve food for this party that we're throwing. Like, we like your food. Can you serve food for this party? But they're like, listen, don't worry about it. Like, we got you on the meat. We're going to get you all the meat and stuff. And she's like, okay. So she walked outside her door, and her son was like chopped up in pieces, like outside the door.
so that was the meat she was supposed to cook.
Meat. But it was basically like, but it's interesting because we look at those types of situations and we see those types of situations as like, oh, you know, that's like corruption, or that's like this, or that's that, right? And then we look at America and we're like, oh, you know, we're in such a free place, or like we're this or we're that. But it's like, no, at the very least, the gangs in Mexico, they're honest. It's like, you don't pay your taxes, this is what's going to happen to you. Here in America, it's like, you don't do this, you don't do that, you get fucked. They'll probably still take you out, chop you up, like the FBI. You know, they'll you know, you'll go missing at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And then before you know it, somebody's sewing your head
sewing your
onto
head.
somebody's
And
body.
exactly.
What's the next topic, bro?
So, next up, we have a Russian lieutenant general says that the Pentagon is conducting illegal experiments in Africa using citizens as free clinical resource. So, basically, there were some documents found in Ukraine that indicate that the Pentagon planned to use the U.S. Army to test unregistered medical drugs on the local population and then submit them for approval by supervisory authorities in the interest of so-called big pharma. Now, that research backs up the claims that the same thing is happening now in Africa, where there's a supposed AIDS epidemic happening in Nigeria, where supposedly 60% of the population is suffering from either AIDS or HIV. And now they have these, new and improved, medications that are supposed to be helping people in
Who's
Africa.
bringing these charges?
Huh?
Who brought the charges? Again, it was against the Pentagon, or who?
It's a Russian lieutenant general.
It was a Russian lieutenant general, and then bringing the charges, and he was saying the charges are against the Pentagon, or who? Yeah, I mean, we didn't need the Russian lieutenant to tell us.
Yeah. Thank you.
We
for
all
that.
know that.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't need him to bring those allegations. We all know that that's what they do. Like, tell us something we don't know, Mr. Russian lieutenant.
Next topic.
Yep.
The mega dam in Ethiopia is finally complete, using the Nile River to generate more than 5,000 megawatts of power. So this has been going on for a really, really long time, but just up until maybe about a week or 2 weeks ago, the dam was still filling up. Like they had to fill all of the reservoirs with the water so that it could become functional and start actually producing the power. So Egypt and Sudan have a fear that the dam will severely reduce the amount of water from the Nile Valley that they get to use because it's being held in the reservoir, so it kind of shrinks the river effectively. And so they've repeatedly asked Addis Ababa to stop filling it until they've reached an agreement on how it should work, but it just kept on going. So now it's ready to go.
So Waz, talk to your people, man.
I just don't understand why we continue to dig ourselves in these kind of holes. It'll be interesting to see where that leads to.
I mean, it just
You don't or you do?
Yeah, but it's just baffling. It's just why, and of all rivers, that one.
just unfortunate.
It's almost like it's sad because it's like people have just completely given up like any sacredness to themselves. It's like you've lost yourself so much to the point like something that's supposed to be sacred to all of us, like you're willingly trying to desecrate it. For what? To compete with the Western society, to compete with America, to compete with England, to make it seem like you're modern, to make it seem like you're new, to make them stop looking down on us. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah,
this doesn't make any
Ethiopia's-
sense.
Ethiopia's not trying to pay no bills.
And then you claim you're not colonized. Like, come on, man.
They're trying to use that water to not pay no bills, man. Like, that's all that is. They're like, let's use the Nile to pay these bills.
Next up, we got more than 50 Cop City protesters in Atlanta are arrested on RICO charges. So basically, there's a $90 billion training facility in Atlanta called Cop City, or that's what the locals call it. It's actually called the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, but it's where cops go to get their training in Atlanta, and it's huge. It's like acres.
It's like a cop. It's like a cop mall.
Exactly. It's 85-acre plot of land.
85
in South
acres.
River Forest, DeKalb County. And yeah, so the interesting thing about it though, it actually used to be the land of the Muskogee people, and they lived in that area until about the 1830s, and then the federal government, removed them. So yeah, all of this happening now, and the protesters were basically like outside of the gates of it, like trying to stop the actual cops from being able to go there to be trained, and then they got arrested on RICO charges.
RICO charges.
How'd they get hit with a federal charge for
RICO.
protesting
Supposedly, some of the people have been arrested.
in other states?
Nah, not even in other states, just for the same activity, but
In another state?
no.
Because like a RICO charge is predicated upon the ability to say like the crime was committed across multiple
Organized
states
crime.
because that's what makes it federal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they said that they were caught on other charges before that, like specific people.
And then
that
it's
were
got to
part
be
of
in
it.
other states
Mm.
because that's the only way they can get you on a RICO charge, because a RICO charge is based on the ability to say that the crimes have been committed in multiple states or there was a conspiracy to commit the crimes in multiple states.
Free Young
because
Thug.
because that's what allows it to become a federal case, because a RICO case is what came into play when they were trying to get
The mob.
Yeah.
the mob, not Rick Ross. No, you guys really don't keep up with like the government.
They just got
and
some of the
stuff like
Italian
that.
mob in, I think in New York. They just hit a couple guys.
Bro,
right
this
now.
is in like the 40s.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is like when
Right.
that idiot, what's that weirdo, that cross-dresser that ran the FBI? Not Dillinger. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover. That fucking weirdo.
You mean the president?
No, Edgar Hoover.
He wasn't a president. Hoover.
He was a guy that ran the FBI.
It was another Hoover that was a president.
Yeah, it was another Hoover.
Next topic. All right, this is the last one. We're gonna end on a high note. So
That means it's gonna be awful, but okay, huh?
They can't hear you on the mic.
I turned it on. Florida authorities are on the hunt for the elusive booty patrol truck roaming the streets and pulling drivers over.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
So there was a 34-year-old man that had red and blue lights installed on his truck, along with other illegal installed lighting on the vehicle, which reads on the driver's side door, National Booty Behavior Protection, all modeled in the same fashion as a Border Patrol vehicle. He claimed, though, to never have actually pulled anyone over, and it was just meant to be a joke.
He was trying to start a bang bang.
So he just ended up ended up getting a ticket for the lights on his truck.
Where was this again?
It was Florida, man.
Man, Florida is like the wild, wild west, bro. Like it's just something in the air or something in the water in Florida. That there's just always some kind of foolishness that's happening in Florida. You're just like, what is going on? But before we end with a word from our sponsor, Warrior Zul Bukande asked, is Planet Nibiru or Nibiru or Planet X any connection with the current event taking place on the planet, according to TikTok? I don't know what the hell you're talking about,
That shit ain't real, bro.
but I would say just get off of TikTok.
That shit ain't real, bro.
Stop using TikTok don't think TikTok is a reliable news source or fact source in any way or any form.
If you are a family member addicted to social media,
Contact
There is help.
E30. E30 will coach you in the ways that he is detoxing from social media.
just delete the apps, bro. Delete the apps.
You really do sound like a fiend. You're like, delete the apps, bro. Delete them. So, Sauce Hot Sauce began in 2007 when a small group of students traveling in West Africa were trying to think of ways to support charitable projects. One of the students traveling happened to be an artisanal hot sauce chef, and right there, Sauce Hot Sauce was born. Since then, Sauce Hot Sauce has prided itself on making exceptional artisan hot sauces with high-quality ingredients to support good causes. We continue to do this with the best and tastiest offering of sauce flavors to date, with a focus on supporting displaced families in the Fara and Gourma region of Burkina Faso with the revenue from our sales. Sauce Hot Sauce.
Kajas Riemann did this without reading it last week. I was pretty impressed.
Really? You memorized it?
I mean, I hear you say it all the time. I just sit here.
Yeah, but I'm not going to memorize it because I have other things I need to memorize.
Oh wait, they can't see your sweater. Can you flip on the regular video? Can you Bashu? Oh, they did. Okay.
They saw it? Cool.
Okay. Oh, I see.
We appreciate you guys. It's been another episode of the Gator Gates podcast. It's good to be back in the booth with you guys. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We hope you guys continue to tune in. We'll be back with you guys soon. And stay wise. The game is being played in front of our eyes. So everybody needs to get hip to the game because things are happening fast and you don't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time because you're not keeping up with the game. And, it's getting real globally. Mm-hmm. It's been real, but it's getting realer. So, get wise, get hip to the game, and, prepare yourselves because shit could get wonky real fast. But okay, guys, it's been another episode of Gator Gates podcast. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll get up with you guys soon. Idiot.
Idiot.
it.